speaks Pennsylvania Dutch, which is a German dialect that's spoken by over 300,000 people here in the US and Canada. And today he's testing me to see if I, as a speaker of regular standard German, can understand him. Hallo, Servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Feli. I'm originally from Munich, Germany, but I've been living here in Cincinnati, Ohio, on and off since 2016. And in Ohio, there are about 50,000 people that natively speak a language called Pennsylvania Dutch. The Pennsylvania Dutch people came to the US from Europe in the 16 and 1700s to escape religious persecution, and they brought their local dialects with them and maintained the language to this day. The main influences of Pennsylvania Dutch come from the German Palatinate region, but also from the Rhineland, Hesse, Baden-Württemberg, and there's even some influence from Swiss German. It's the language that the Amish and the Mennonites speak, for example, but they're not the only ones. Last year, I made a video where I reacted to a few videos of people speaking Pennsylvania Dutch, and one of those people was Doug Madenford.
Hallo liebe Leute in der Pals, es ist wieder der Doug aus Pennsylvania und ich habe ein Pennsylvanisch Deutschwort für euch. Es Hingelhaus.
The thing is, I have no clue. Maybe it's like a outdoor toilet? Nope, that was not it, not even close, but Doug saw that video and reached out to me afterwards to talk a little bit more about Pennsylvania Dutch and to find out if I can maybe understand a little bit more than I did in that clip. So let's see how I'm gonna do today, and while you're watching, let me know in the comments how much you can understand.
Well, hi Feli, Doug here, and I have a little bit of a Pennsylvania Dutch story. It's very short, in our dialect, in our language, and I'd love to read it. I'm gonna read it straight through, and then you can pull apart and see what you want. It's only a couple sentences. You're gonna be fine, I think.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Es freut mich, mit dir heit zu schwätzen. Well, na is es Mats. Es Frühjahr kommt und der Winter ist vorbei. Letzte Monat in Hanning hat die Grundsaat sei Schaden gezähne, so is wieder in sei Loch gegradelt. So wir müssen noch ein bisschen Water für warmes Wetter und schöne Blumen. Ich gleich es Frühjahr arg viel. Dann kann ich wieder mein Motorcycle fahren und in mein Garten schaffen.
Okay, I would say I understood maybe like 70% of that. There were definitely a few things that I didn't understand at the first try.
Sure.
And of course, it's kind of hard to like remember everything. But the first sentence was super easy. Can you say that again?
Sure. Es freut mich, mit dir heit zu schwätzen.
So in standard German, I would just say, es freut mich, mit dir heute zu schwätzen or zu reden.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm happy to talk to you today.
Exactly. All right, I'm going to throw the next two sentences at you and you pull them apart. Well, na is es Mats. Es Frühjahr kommt und der Winter ist vorbei.
See, that one word Mats, at first I didn't catch it, but now I understand it's supposed to say März, like the month of March. So it's saying like, jetzt ist es März, das Frühjahr kommt und der Winter ist vorbei. So It's March now, spring is around the corner or is coming, and winter is over.
Exactly. All right, moving on. Letzte Monat in Hanning hat die Grundsaat sei Schaden gezähne, so is wieder in sei Loch gegradelt.
See, that one's difficult for me. One word in my Pennsylvania Dutch reaction video, that one word Hanning, I think came up. I think I translated it as, or interpreted as January, but I think that was wrong.
Right. Yeah. So January in Pennsylvania Dutch is Jänner.
Like an Austrian too.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. And Hanning is February.
Okay. Yep.
And
now
it's
that
kind
you're
of
saying that, I remember.
It's kind of a cool story, and I don't know why or where this started. I don't know if this is something that we brought with to America, or if it was something that we came up with here. That I'm not 100% sure. But it has to come with, Hanning comes from Hana, the horns, antlers on an animal. So in February, traditionally, is the month that they would lose their horns from the winter. So that's how we associated Hanning with February. It's old, and it might go way, way back, to the Pals. That I don't know, but that is our month. That's how we say the month of February, Hanning.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, can you repeat the rest of the sentence again? Because
Absolutely.
I know that's about some animal.
It is. Letzte Monat in Hanning hat die Grundsaat sei Schaden gezähne, so is wieder in sei Loch gegradelt.
So I know that also in the reaction video that I did, there was something about like Groundhog Day. So I don't know if this has anything to do with groundhogs, but I guess some animal showed its teeth or something like that.
Oh, close.
Wasn't it something Zähne?
Ja, hat sei Schade gezähne.
Ah, okay, so gezähne is like gezeigt? Or
No, you were right the
Gezählt?
first time. Gesehen is
Gesehen.
gezähne.
Okay,
Ja.
oh gosh.
Und sei Schade. Die Grundsau. You were right with Groundhog. This is a throwback
Okay.
to a big part of our culture.
Grundsau is like the
Ja,
the
die
word where it
Grundsau. Ja, Murmeltier in standard German. Yeah. So the tradition in Pennsylvania Dutch culture, and this also comes from the Pfalz, and in Germany as well, way back. We have this tradition of on Candlemas, which is the 2nd of February, we have Groundhog Day here in America.
Yeah.
But it's the Pennsylvania Dutch that have done this and brought it here. The tradition is that a groundhog on the 2nd of February will come out of his hole, and that's what I said. He comes out, and the tradition is if he sees his shadow on that morning, he gets scared and he runs back in his burrow, in his hole. And that means 6 more weeks of winter, traditionally.
Right.
If he comes out, he doesn't see his shadow, then he stays out. And spring is right around the corner. So, in German tradition, if you go back 300, 400, 500 years, this was practiced, but there were no groundhogs in Germany because it's a North American animal. So in the area of the Pfalz and along the Rhine River Valley, they used a badger was traditional. And a badger would come out around the 2nd of February, this Candlemas Day. And this was an old Bauernregel.
A badger is a dachs, right, in German?
Right.
Okay,
exactly.
Just for okay.
Yep, dachs. But we got here in the New World in the 1700s. There were no badgers in Pennsylvania, but there were a lot of groundhogs. So we adopted that animal to help foretell our weather. It's kind of a old German tradition brought here, used, but also turned a little bit because we had to make do with what we had, right? When our forefathers got here. Interesting.
I did not know that it came from that.
Yes, yeah, it's a German tradition. Yeah, way back. There are stories I've met from people in the Pfalz who've said, these ideas of using animals to foretell the weather goes back to pre-Christian Europe, pagan days. I mean, these are super old things. So it's really cool that this tradition still lives, and in all of places here in the United States, it's really kind of crazy. So that whole sentence was, and I'll go right into the English. Last month in February in Hunning, the groundhog saw his shadow and he climbed or, crawled back into his hole.
I could have made the connection between like Schade and Schatten, but it's just because Schade means like, oh, what a pity in German.
Right,
it's just like, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, and then I'm like completely lost. My brain doesn't make any other associations.
I hear you. All right, next sentence. So, wir müssen noch gleich bissel Water für warmes Wetter und schöne Blumen.
Okay.
That's easy, huh?
Also, wir müssen noch ein bisschen warten auf schönes Wetter und, what was the adjective? Blumen.
Schöne.
Oh, warmes Wetter und schöne Blumen.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
So we still gotta wait a little bit for warm weather and nice flowers.
Yes. Ich gleich es Frühjahr arg viel, dann kann ich wieder mein Motorcycle fahren und in mein Garten schaffen.
What's the first part of the sentence?
This is what throws a lot of Germans off. I love it. Ich gleich es Frühjahr arg viel.
Okay, das früher arg viel? That doesn't make any sense. Well, the second part of the sentence was like, then I can ride my motorcycle and I can work in my garden.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the last half. Yep.
And the first part, maybe it's something like I'm looking forward to the spring a lot.
No, it's a little different than that. So we have this unique construction in Pennsylvania Dutch where we use the verb gleiche, which gleich in standard German means, how would you translate that for most people, right?
Like gleich is like either now or here in a second, or it could also maybe come from the verb gleichen, as in like to be equal to something.
Or like something. So what happens, and we don't know exactly where or when this happened, this language shift happened in the Pennsylvania Dutch, but we took that word, and in English we would say, I like to do something, or I like this. We took that word and used the Pennsylvania Dutch word gleiche, and we turned it into the verb. So when you say, ich gleich es Frühjahr, I like spring.
Okay, so I wasn't too far off.
No,
with, like,
you weren't.
Looking
not at
forward
all.
To, but I would have never guessed that gleich means
right.
to like.
Now, I have encounters with people from the Palatinate region, from the Pfalz, where where most of our DNA comes from, our language DNA comes from. There are older generation speakers, and I've run into people where that actually was used, and they said, oh, I remember my grandparents saying stuff like that, but nobody says it anymore, right? And that's kind of one of the cool things about Pennsylvania Dutch is that we truly are a time capsule. Our language, we brought over in the 1700s, and for the most part, it stayed because there was no other German influence on it. There was English influence based on the people that were settling around us in our history, but we were truly a Sprachinsel. We were this language island that we were allowed to develop without any outside influence, where if you look, the people that stayed in Germany in the 1700s, well, German changed a lot in the time since. There was French influence, German itself changed, where we didn't have that outside influence on us. So there are words that we use and traditions that we do that are truly 300 years old.
It's such a fascinating language, and if you want to hear more about Doug's experience growing up in a Pennsylvania Dutch community, if you want to learn about how the language integrates new terms for modern inventions like computers or TV, for example, and if you want to find out how much people from modern-day Germany have in common with the Pennsylvania Dutch, stay tuned for part 2 of this video that will come out on Friday, or if it's already out when you're watching this, I'm gonna link it right here. Doug has his own YouTube channel and podcast, by the way, where he talks all about Pennsylvania Dutch and even teaches the language. I was a guest on episode 74 of his podcast, so make sure to check that out on YouTube or on your favorite audio streaming platform. It's called Doug's Front Porch. And he was even part of a documentary called Hiwwe Driwwe, where he traveled to Germany to discover the roots of his ancestors in the Palatinate region and find out how much he still has in common with the locals there. You can stream that on Amazon Prime if you're interested. I'll also put all of the links down below for you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in part 2. Tschüss, and in Pennsylvania Dutch, mach's gut!